Hi, everybody. So I did this thing the other week where I traded a perfectly good BMW R1200GS for a brand new Harley Davidson Pan America. The story behind it is I'm very impulsive, and I have owned a ton of Harleys in the past, but about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I decided, you know what, the position of writing and the writing that I do, I want something that I'm a little bit more upright, and I don't necessarily need to have all this noise and all these things. And I think I'm gonna like a GS, an adventure bike. I've never off-roaded on a bike. I do off-road in vehicles. I've had a Jeep, a Defender 90, and I currently have a Ford Bronco that I'm in love with. But I started thinking lately, it's like, well, it's really, gas is really expensive. And, at between 12 and 16 miles per gallon to go off-roading in the places that I like off-roading, you're talking several $100s a weekend. So I thought maybe I will take this off-roading adventure thing a little bit more seriously. Um, but one of the things that I noticed when I bought the R1200 is that and I've taken some long trips through it. I went to Tahoe last year, but the first thing that I noticed is on the Harleys, the center of gravity is quite, touring bikes, it's quite low. So I always felt more comfortable on the twisties. On the BMW, and maybe this is just me, the center of gravity feels a lot higher, and it is really heavy in that engine compartment. It's very bulky, and I was never very comfortable on the twisties with the 1200. It was kind of daunting. I had to slow down a lot, and that was reflecting of my riding experience. But that was my experience. So anyway, I get a call about 3 weeks ago from the Harley dealership that has already taking a bit of my money. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I got the 1200. And the guy goes like, well, have you ridden the Pan America yet? And I didn't even know that Harley had released Pan America. And it's released over a year. I have a 2022 now. But I find it's Saturday. I'll go for a little ride. What the hell do I have to lose? And I went and rode the bike. And, so pros and cons when I first rode it. The gear ratios and the lower gear ratios of the BMW are a lot more powerful, right? They have a lot more pickup on the first and second gear. I felt the Harley was a little bit lagging, but it has it has a little bit of torque. But then I figured they're doing that design, so that when you're off-roading, you have a little bit more control over your torque and your speed, which is great. At the high end, it was great, but man, the maneuverability and the lightness and to me, the lower center of gravity meant that I could go on the turns and I would feel great. In fact, it feels amazing. It was the best out of all the Harleys that I own. I know quite a lot of them. It was the one that felt the best. It sounded a little bit like a lawnmower at first, but so does my GS. But the thing about Harleys is that you can update the exhaust and do all those sorts of things. And I have done that. Actually, I put the Van Hines high output 450 on my bike. I did it myself. It was super easy to do. At $600, it was great. And now it sounds like a quieter off-road dirt bike, but it sounds actually really, really nice. So that added to the effort, whereas a BMW, you kind of hesitate to do that because it's not that kind of a bike. But on a Harley, it's the best of both worlds. So I went ahead and did that. So what are the top things that I like? It seems more nimble on the twisties. It's actually super fun to go on the twisties on the Harley, versus I didn't feel the comfort on the R1200 or the GS. But one of my first experience taking my bike home was traumatic because it overheated big time. And the reason for that was because Harley did not put enough coolant on the bike. And I guess that, Harley is not used to having liquid cool bikes. So they didn't check it. The bike has zero coolant. So that was one negative about Harley. So if you buy a Pan America, make sure your coolant is full before, because I've read on the forums that this is not such an uncommon thing to happen. It runs a little hotter. On the GS, I went on a trip on the Mojave Desert last year at the top of the summer. The hottest it got was 212 degrees. Okay, Harley will go past that. Harley, the fan will start turning on at 221 degrees. If you go to 230, it's getting there. Mine hasn't gotten there except when it overheated, but mine hasn't gotten there. But it's kind of daunting. And then when that fan turns on, the fan is heat gets all the exhaust to your left leg, and it gets hot. So that's one thing that I wish Harley would address, is that that flow of the fan hits your leg, and it gets pretty hot, especially since you're talking about those kind of temperatures. Um, I'll miss the quick shifter out of the BMW. The Harley does not come with it standard. In 2022, allegedly, there is one key that you can put. Harley has to install it, but I am skeptical about first generations of that, so I'm not going to add it. But I do miss my quick shifter on the BMW if the Harley does not come with it. Fan heats up. I have the suspension drop, really nice, right? Because once you stop and once you get on the bike, the suspension drop. Now, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'2". I technically don't need it, but I have back issues, which is why I wanted to get into an upright bike in the first place. And putting my leg over the bike can be a little bit difficult because I have mobility issues as a response. So getting the bike to lower is very nice. And that back seat is a little bit higher. So if I have a passenger, it's easier for them to get on as well. And I do like the height on the seat because the person in the back is able to see. And again, in the GS, with the feeling of having that center of gravity higher and then people behind it feel uncomfortable. And this bike, it does not for me. I'm gonna put that caveat there. And the wind protection. I think that in the GS, the wind protection was okay, but on the Harley is incredible. I actually was able to lower the windshield a little bit, and it still is a very good wind protection. And the quietness of the ride is impacted by that. So anyway, I have had the bike for 2 weeks. I just finishing the braking period, and I'm about to go on an off-road class because I definitely will off-road that bike. It feels nimble enough that I'll feel more comfortable as a novice to go and learn, versus the GS. I didn't feel that comfortable. And both bikes, well, the GS does not come. I don't think it comes standard with the crash bars. Mine had them, but the Harley Pan America Special does come with a crash bar, and it's a bit tighter bike, which is nice. So those are my first impressions. I shall share with you more impressions as I keep on riding.